thanks again for the opportunity. I really enjoy this. Good to be on with two of my favorite state senators. It's good to see both of you. I love the interplay between Senator Yaw and Senator Ujicic because they perfectly tied the importance of upstream to downstream, which we don't do enough. And I think you guys did it extremely well. In my time, my 20 years in the oil industry for BP and API, most of my work was on downstream issues. I worked at, Senator Ujicic, you mentioned the Braskem plant in Marcus Hook. There was a BP refinery there. It's still operating. It's not BP's, but so that was most of what I was familiar with, which I'll talk a little bit about some of these issues. But George mentioned an initiative we're doing called Bringing PA Back, and I want to just spend a couple minutes on that. Because the reality is, as we entered into this a couple months ago, this critical period of our time that's both a health issue and is now an ongoing economic issue, and obviously some of the health issues related to this economic downturn. We were talking a little bit before. The chief medical officer at UPMC, Dr. Shapiro, said that in his view, because of the economic downturn, we could see as many as 100,000 to 150,000 excess suicides over the desperation that people are seeing. We already know we're seeing more drug overdoses, et cetera. So these bring real issues. And so for the last month and a half, the chamber, along with a number of our local chamber partners, and I know a number are on the phone here today, along with a number of statewide organizations, business organizations, including Hospital Association and the Pennsylvania Medical Society, because we want to, as we bring this initiative, PA Back, we want to make sure that we do it in a safe, healthy manner. It's critical for all those who are involved to do that. And it's to focus on those things that we need to do that get Pennsylvania back where we want it, back into some semblance of economic prosperity. And, both of you have noted that in many cases, Pennsylvania trails many others. Senator Ujicic, you talked about the fact that your region often trails the Pennsylvania rate, and Pennsylvania's rate typically is worse than the national rate. So we know what we're faced with here, and, we know what challenges we have. So we're focused on trying to get industry and business back safely, figuring out what are the things that we need. One of them we focused on is liability protections, not only for doctors and other healthcare professionals and healthcare facilities, hospitals, but also for businesses, those that have made personal protective equipment, who've turned their manufacturing process around to make that, for essential businesses that were required to operate. And today, interestingly, there was an article in the Post-Gazette, the Giant Eagle supermarket chain out in Pittsburgh is already being sued for requiring people who said that they had a health condition to wear a mask. So we're already starting to see the beginnings of litigation that could hit the natural gas industry as they've had to continue to operate. And we're also trying to give liability protection, not blanket immunity, as some have said, but safe harbor protections to businesses as they start up, so that they can come back and say, if I follow the guidelines, I know I'm going to be given some semblance at least of safe harbor. Those things are absolutely critical in our view. Senator Yaw talked about something that we've all talked about quite a bit, which is infrastructure. And we cannot fully realize the resource that we have here without developing that infrastructure. Look, as we come back, we're going to need all of our resources. Natural gas certainly being one of those resources that's going to be absolutely crucial as we move forward on this. And noted, unfortunately, the short-sightedness of states surrounding us that not only deny themselves the advantages of natural gas, but are actually utilizing energy sources, and in many cases have higher emissions because they're denying the utilization of natural gas to their people. So it hurts us. It certainly hurts them and hurts this country. The issue of Russian natural gas coming in was touched on, and we've talked about it before. And it's absolutely incredible to me that this issue has not gotten the attention that it should. And it's even a little bit broader. There's very good information out there that Russia and other countries have engaged in disinformation against the U.S. and Pennsylvania natural gas industry and energy issues generally. And it's kind of funny. You'll hear people say, well, of course that, the Russians involved themselves in the presidential campaign, but why would they ever involve themselves in a huge economic issue that impacts them? It's absolutely incredible. This has gotten nowhere near the attention, the misinformation that can be tied, the funding of certain groups who are trying to completely block natural gas development in this country. Absolutely incredible. And so it certainly deserves much more attention, much more media attention than it has gotten. Senator Yudichak, I'm glad to hear you talk about, the project that we're hoping to get up in your area, because it's certainly, while downstream, you two have certainly connected the upstream and downstream sides. What's, again, incredible, and goes a little bit back to what I just said about this disinformation campaign, the people, I've seen letters to the editor, op-eds, that just, and you put it exactly right. This is a case where we either get zero. It's not a case where we're going to try and get something out of this. It's zero if we don't do this. Some people said, I want 100%. We know what will happen. Those jobs will go elsewhere, just as they were going to go with the Shell facility. Shell was pretty clear. When we put this in, Shell said when they opened, had we not gotten this credit, and as you know, it comes after billions of dollars have been put into the ground. Had we not gotten this credit, the jobs would have gone to West Virginia or Ohio or somewhere else. And for those who have seen that facility, it's absolutely incredible what it's doing for that economy, for the trades in those areas. Absolutely incredible what is happening out there. The same could happen in Northeast PA. But again, to go to this misinformation that's out there, I've seen letters from people claiming hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of a taxpayer giveaway. There was actually one letter that said, we should take the fill in the blank, because the number changes every day. We should take the $400 million that we're going to give to this industry and use it somewhere else. There is no magic pot of money here. The money comes from, as the two senators know, doing the development in a responsible manner, opening our borders to new jobs that have tremendous benefits across the board. And we do that because we decide to take a little bit less state tax money than we otherwise would. That's what we're talking about here. And again, I think that, we've got to do that. We have to end this wrong-headed thinking that we continue to hear about the industry, when people will say, you know what, the natural gas is here, the industry has to be here. They don't. George, as you know, this is a mobile industry. Those rigs can move. I've literally heard people say, well, these are big companies. They can afford to lose money in Pennsylvania. No, they can't. And the analogy I've used with people is, if you have a 401k and you have 5 funds, and 4 funds make money and 1 doesn't, you don't say, well, I'm making money in 4 of my funds. No, you get rid of the dog in your fund and you put it someplace else. Companies make the same decision. If they're not making money in Pennsylvania for whatever reason it is, because they're taxed too high, or the permitting issues are there, or they can't do it, they will go somewhere else. There are plenty of opportunities for investment, not only in this country, but internationally. And particularly now, coming out of this, we need to make sure that as we are bringing ourselves back, we do not put additional hurdles, barriers to implementing more investment in this Commonwealth. It would be the exact wrong-headed thing to do. We cannot do that, whether it's taxation, whether it's additional regulation, whatever we're talking about, we have to make sure that we don't do it. And let me close with this. At the last, and Senator Yudichak mentioned this, and I think that it really bears a discussion. We have so many people out there, from Hollywood celebrities on down, talking about banning natural gas. We need to end fracking. We need to do this. And Senator Yudichak mentioned the situation at Braskem, where a number of people just kept themselves at the facility for, I think, a 30-day period, and just worked and stayed and lived at the facility away from their family to make the raw material to make PPEs. Without natural gas and oil, there are no PPEs. It doesn't happen. And our friends at Pyoga, and we had talked about this a little bit before, had an interesting pictorial. If you take the typical emergency room in a hospital, there are more than 90 items in that emergency room that are only made possible because of oil and natural gas. Things like EKG leads, IV pumps and power cords, laminated charts, all kinds of medical plastics, thermometers, stethoscope, bandages, parts for syringes, intubation blades, crutches, you name it. This comes about because we have an industry that delivers benefits for the Commonwealth and its citizens, delivers jobs for the Commonwealth and its citizens, and delivers tax revenue for the Commonwealth and its citizens so that we can fund the things that we all know that we want, whether it's education or healthcare or assistance for our seniors. That's what we get when we have a vibrant natural gas industry in Pennsylvania, and that's why it needs to be protected and developed in a responsible manner.